As they were gathering in Galilee, Jesus said to them, "The Son of Man is going to be betrayed into human hands, and they will kill him, and on the third day he will be raised." And they were greatly distressed. When they came to Capernaum, the collectors of the temple tax came to Peter and said, "Does your teacher not pay the temple tax?" He said, "Yes, he does." And when he came home, Jesus spoke of it first, saying, "What do you think, Simon? From whom do kings of the earth take toll or tribute? From their children or from others?" When Peter said, "From others," Jesus said to him, "Then the children are free. However, so that we do not give offense to them, go to the sea and cast a hook. Take the first fish that comes up, and when you open its mouth, you will find a coin. Take that and give it to them for you and me."
I was at the grocery store last week when my card got declined, standing there with a cart full of food, feeling the eyes of people behind me in line. I fumbled through my wallet looking for cash. The embarrassment was real, but then I remembered I had a backup card, and crisis averted. As I walked to my car, I couldn't help but think about how we all have those moments where we're caught between what we can afford and what we need to do to keep the peace. This passage from Matthew gives us one of those beautifully human moments with Jesus, except his solution involves a fish with a coin in its mouth. But let's back up, because this story starts with something much heavier than tax troubles. Jesus has just come down from the mountain where he was transfigured in glory before Peter, James, and John. They've witnessed him in his divine splendor, talking with Moses and Elijah. It was the ultimate mountaintop experience, but now they're back in the valley, and Jesus drops a bombshell that shatters their post-glory high. The Son of Man is going to be betrayed into human hands, and they will kill him, and on the third day he will be raised. This is the second time Jesus has told them this, and they're still not getting it. The text says they were greatly distressed. I imagine them thinking, "Wait, what? We just saw you glowing like the sun, talking with the greatest prophets in history, and now you're talking about dying? This doesn't compute." It's so human, isn't it? We want the glory without the cross, the crown without the thorns, the resurrection without the crucifixion. We love the mountaintop moments but struggle with the valley of suffering that often follows. Then, as if the emotional whiplash wasn't enough, they get to Capernaum and face a mundane but potentially awkward situation. The temple tax collectors approach Peter, not Jesus directly, but Peter. It's like when someone has an issue with your friend but comes to you instead. "Does your teacher pay his taxes?" Peter, probably wanting to avoid any drama, quickly says, "Yes, of course he does." But when he gets home, Jesus is already waiting with a question that reveals he knew exactly what happened. This is classic Jesus. He knows everything but still engages us in conversation to help us understand. "Simon," Jesus asks, "when kings collect taxes, do they tax their own children or other people?" Peter gets it immediately, "Other people." And Jesus makes his point, "Then the children are free." Here's the beautiful theology hidden in this everyday moment. Jesus is the Son of God, and the temple is his Father's house. Technically, he shouldn't have to pay a tax to maintain his own Father's house. It would be like charging the prince rent to live in the palace. The children of the king don't pay taxes to the king. But then comes the wisdom that I think about every time I'm tempted to stand on principle when it might hurt my witness. However, so that we do not give offense to them, Jesus chooses to pay the tax not because he has to, but because refusing would create unnecessary stumbling blocks for people who might not understand his divine sonship. This is revolutionary thinking. Jesus had every right to claim exemption. He could have made it a teaching moment about his identity. He could have used it to assert his authority. Instead, he chose the path of humility in consideration for others' understanding. And then, because Jesus is Jesus, he provides for the tax in the most extraordinary way possible. Go fishing, Peter. The first fish you catch will have a coin in its mouth that covers both our taxes. I love that Jesus includes Peter in this miracle. It's not just about Jesus' tax, it's for you and me. This story teaches us something profound about living with divine identity in a human world. We are children of the King, citizens of heaven, heirs of God. Technically, we're free from so many of the things that bind others, but sometimes, love calls us to voluntarily limit our freedom so we don't become stumbling blocks. I think about my friend Sarah, who's a vegetarian for health reasons but will eat meat when she's a guest in someone's home because she doesn't want to make them feel bad about their cooking. Or my colleague who could easily work from home but comes to the office because he knows his presence encourages the younger employees. The miracle of the coin in the fish's mouth isn't just about God's provision, though it certainly is that. It's about God's creativity in meeting our needs when we choose love over rights, service over self-assertion, and consideration over convenience. Jesus shows us that sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is not exercise our power. Sometimes the most royal thing we can do is pay the tax we don't technically owe. Sometimes the most divine thing we can do is act with human kindness. The disciples were distressed about Jesus' prediction of suffering, but here he shows them what that suffering looks like in practice. Choosing to serve rather than be served, choosing to give rather than take, choosing to accommodate rather than demand our rights. So here's my question. Where in your life is God calling you to pay a tax you don't technically owe? Where might he be asking you to limit your freedom for the sake of someone else's understanding? And are you willing to trust that when you choose love over rights, he'll provide what you need in ways that might just blow your mind?